Notre Dame is number one.
Notre Dame with a miracle win.
He's going in. Notre Dame has scored.
Okay, we're ready to get started with the second phase of today's conference here at the Discover BCS National Championship Game. The Notre Dame Athletic Media Relations staff this week that you'll be working with are Brian Harden, John Heisler, and Michael Bursch. Just a reminder from the Notre Dame staff that practice today will begin at 12:45. That's a little bit earlier than has been published on your schedules. That will be at Nova Southeastern University. First 15 minutes of that session is available for some video and photographers. Also, as a reminder, ESPN, following most of the press conferences this week, will be having various talent members from their staff coming in here and doing press conferences. Those start here today and will follow the Notre Dame session this morning. We're joined right now today at the main dais by Notre Dame defensive coordinator Bob Diaco and COSIDE academic All-American and National Football Foundation scholar athlete linebacker Manti Te'o. Next door going on at this same time, we have the other student athletes that are here from Notre Dame today: Capron Lewis Moore, safety Zeke Mata, safety Matthias Farley, and linebacker Danny Spahn. And again, all those sessions will be going on concurrently. So we've got about 40 minutes now with Notre Dame questions in this room, just directed for the two gentlemen at the dais. We'll go ahead and get started right over here.
Dave Reardon from the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. Aloha, Manti. You represent a lot of different constituencies: defensive players, the resurgence of Notre Dame, the underdog in general because of you guys being an underdog for this game. Can you speak a little bit about representing the people of Polynesia and the state of Hawaii?
I think for me that's one of the biggest pleasures and honors that I get. To not only represent my wonderful school and my teammates and this man beside me, but to represent my people back home, the state of Hawaii, and to just be an example to them of somebody who made that leap of faith to leave the Rock just for a few years, and to find comfort in knowing that Hawaii will always be there, and that you can do a good amount of service to the state by sacrificing a few years away from home to help live your dream. And by you helping to live your dream, you help other people's dreams seem that much more real.
Manti, to your right. Tim Rowan, New York Times. I was just curious, when you came to Notre Dame, you chose the number 5. Was there a reason behind it, a story behind it, any meaning?
Oh, no. Ever since, when I was 5 years old, it's kind of just a simple story. I was 5 years old. My dad and I were driving around Laie, where I grew up. And he asked me, "Hey, son, when you play football, what number do you want to be?" And since I was 5 years old, I said 5. And so I've managed to be lucky enough to carry on that little tradition that I started at 5 years old.
Manti, how have you kind of wound down the last couple of weeks just from the award circuit and the sleepless nights and really sleepless week that you experienced a couple weeks ago?
It's been easy. When you're in the middle of football, nothing else matters. And football is my sanctuary where I feel the most at home. And when I'm with my guys, when I'm with my coach, that's my comfort zone. And that's where I want to be. And I was just glad to finally get back from that week of just traveling and just to spend the rest of my time with my guys.
And Bob, if I could follow up, just how impressed were you by the way he was able to handle being pulled in 12 different directions at once that week?
That's a great question. And I was just speaking with the other defensive staffers, talking about a few guys, not just Manti in particular. But, you asked about Manti. Manti has actually practiced harder the last week since the award circuit, practice harder than he has all year long. So he himself has raised his game even just as early as last week and leading up to the travel here to South Florida.
Mike Graham with Scripps Newspapers. This is for Coach Manti. Could you just talk a little bit about Zeke Mata and what he has brought as a teammate and his contributions on and off the field?
I think, excuse me, when you're talking about Zeke Mata, you're talking about a guy who does not quit, a guy whose work ethic you cannot measure, because that guy will outwork anybody every day, every single rep. He and Prince Shimbo are the two guys who, really inspire me. Coach talked about how I've practiced the hardest I've practiced all year, and that's one, because I realize that my time here is running out, and two, because I have guys around me that are that example for me, even myself, that I can always give more. And Zeke Mata is somebody who always gives more, not because he wants to do it for himself, because that's how much he cares about this team, and that's how important this game is to him. And so he's just that guy out there who's working hard, but also he's helping to just be that kind of traffic control guy out there, for the young guys, because I think the youngest group we have out there is our secondary. But by the way they play, you wouldn't tell because of number 17 and his maturity and how he just facilitates everything back there.
Zeke, from a coaching perspective, it's such a pleasure to coach. Since the first day that we started to work with Zeke, not one time has he ever complained. Not one time has he ever not tried to do what you're asking him to do. He takes his job and work very, very seriously, and just sheer toughness. I mean, Manti was talking about work, and that's all true, but this is a tough individual. I mean, not only contact tough, mentally tough. If you were going to any kind of battle, to do any kind of competitive anything, you'd want to take Zeke Mata with you.
Manti, if you could talk about how much pride you take in having the C on your chest, knowing that you're going to be entering your final game as a collegiate football player, as a captain of Notre Dame.
I think, myself and the other three, captains, Cap, Zach, and Tyler, we all take that very seriously. And, when we found out that, that was actually going to happen, we didn't know. But for us to have the opportunity to, represent our team and to represent them every Saturday, for people to recognize us, we're the first to come out of the tunnel. And so, with that comes a lot of responsibility. And, I'm very, very blessed to be able to represent this team and, to be that, part of this team and this journey that we've taken.
Manti over here. Can you talk about, I guess you've gotten to meet a few of the Alabama guys on the award circuit, maybe what some of the interchanges between you have been like?
Oh, it's been great. I think, a lot of people don't realize is that, aside off the football field, everybody's just, pretty much a good person. I met D and I met Barrett. And those guys are just real good guys that, if they're on our team, we would enjoy having them on our team as well. And, they're competitive, and it was just great to know them.
For both you guys, were there one or two instances that told you maybe in August or the offseason why Notre Dame was ready to win? Because you did come from unranked to number one. Both you guys.
I would say that we really don't operate in a big picture matter. So we never really had this crescendo moment where we sit down and think like that, and we really don't talk like that. None of our business of the day is set up like that. And we set up the business of the day every day so that we don't have time to even look at and think about those particular things. We're just interested in having the very best defense we can possibly have that particular day. And when you focus that kind of energy and that kind of intense, drilled down focus on a job, we really don't spend a lot of time thinking about things like that. So I would say that for me, there wasn't, this moment that said we were going to have a great team.
I think, for me, in the summer, it wasn't a moment, but it was a sign that, this team was different. Obviously, that moment wasn't a sign that said, man, we're going to make it to the national championship. It was just a sign that, hey, this team is different. This team is willing to sacrifice a lot, and that's when we had a pretty hard conditioning workout in the summer, and our coach gave us the option of, doing the day's lift in the weight room. And he said, it's optional, you can do it if you want. And, he said, I understand that a lot of you are going to be tired and exhausted after this workout, and indeed we were, but every single one of our players slowly worked their way into the weight room and did the lift. And nobody asked anybody, nobody forced anyone, but, the leaders went and the rest followed. And, like I said, it wasn't that moment where we're like, man, we're going to make it to the national championship because of this. It was just one of those moments that, okay, we have a chance here. And like how Coach said, we constantly worked every day and focused on the day's tasks and making sure that by the end of the day, we were better than the start. So. Like summer conditioning in June.
Coach, maybe it's a little awkward with Manti sitting right next to you, but besides being an All-American and Heisman Trophy finalist, what does he bring to the table just in terms of character, work ethic, leadership, just maybe being a good guy?
It's well documented how I feel about Manti. For as talented a player he is, which you guys have all had an opportunity to see over his career, he's a better person. His family, just the roots of his family. You think about, he's his father's son, and his father's a guy that when he was a kid, the father wasn't a coach, but he would go to coaching clinics around to find out the small nuances and techniques to help teach Manti. That kind of commitment, that kind of love, that kind of bond, the culture that he's from, he brings all that to the position, to the unit, to the team, to the university. Just happy, full of life. On a day where maybe as a coach you might be feeling a little down or maybe slightly distracted with the world's polls, Manti is easy to see, look at, and see his face and immediately be energized. So that's just the kind of guy that he is. He's going to be a success at whatever he does, and God willing, he'll have a large, loving family, and he's going to be, like I said, great at whatever he does.
Manti, you talk about practicing harder this past week, coming off the award circuit and everything. Is part of that, I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but do you think, does it come through with your mind perhaps validating some of those awards or the recognition that you have received is part of why you have practiced harder in the past week or so?
No, it's for the simple fact that, I know that, a lot of the success that you experience on game day was already done throughout the week. And if I don't prepare myself the best I can throughout the week, I won't be ready for Saturday. I can't just, Coach always talks about it, you can't just turn it on and off. I can't just slack the whole week and then when game day comes to say, okay, I'm ready, I'm gonna go all out now. It's like how we talk, it's a day-to-day process, and I know that, and everybody on our team understands that the success that, if we want to be successful on Monday, we have to be better on Wednesday, and then better on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday hopefully will take care of itself.
Yes, Manti, from the outside looking in, it would appear that this particular team has a shared vision between the coaches and the players. A, would you agree with that? And B, how long do you think it took you to reach that point?
Obviously, I would agree with that. The connection that we have with our coaches is a bond that's very different. It's kind of like a family member. We know all their children. Their children know us by name. They don't know us as, you're number 5 or you're number 89, you're Captain Lewis. They know us by, hey, Manti, hi, Cap. So, that's the kind of bond we have not only with our coaches but with their families. B, I can't say when. I think it was a growing process. It was gradual. It was us getting to know our coaches and our coaches getting to know us and how we click and how they click. And once we made that mesh, and it was perfect. And I'm just very grateful to be part of this team and part of this family, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Liam McHugh, NBC Sports. Manti, a lot of people have said that you're leaving Notre Dame better off than when you arrived, in that several top players now want to come to Notre Dame because of you. So I guess I'm wondering, what's your sales pitch?
I think our sales pitch is done on the field, and I think when you get to Notre Dame, for those who have been at Notre Dame, it speaks for itself. Two things happen when you go to Notre Dame. Either you fall in love with it or you don't. There's no in between. And I spent 4 years there, and I just told people my experience. And all these guys who come to Notre Dame aren't because of me. They see the success that we've had on a football field. Now you combine that with the success we have in the classroom, and the tradition, and just the aura of the school. Walk through the locker room, and movies are made about that locker room, and movies are made about that stadium. And for me to run out of that tunnel for the first time, and to run out of it for the last time, and to be in a brighter spot than it was when I ran out of it the first time, it's definitely a big accomplishment, not only for myself, but for the rest of the seniors, and for our team.
Coach, to your right, you guys defense had a few big goal line stands this year, obviously Stanford and USC. What did it take to master that, the art of the goal line stand? Is there a blueprint that you're comfortable with, that you're confident in? What has to go right for that to work?
No, and I wouldn't say, even the question that you had asked Manti about, this arrival point of the bond, and a mastering of that. It's all evolving. Everything can continue to get better. Everything. Our relationship will continue to grow if we don't take it for granted. Our unit fundamentally will continue to improve if we make sure that that's the identity of the day. The goal line stands are a function of players knowing clearly exactly what to do, playing with whole heart, whole body, whole mind, being physically talented enough to get their job done and win their individual matchup at that particular moment. So they're culturally with our defense, and our whole program started with Coach Kelly. Coach Kelly sets the identity, the personnel, the vision, the family, the culture. And he is a guy that it's next man in. Nothing will ever derail the energy, the program. You just next person in, next call in, next man in, and it permeates through the defense, and we continue that same identity on the defense, in that no situation will be too much for us to take on, and no place on the field will we get discouraged, no matter how many times, no matter how many turnovers, no matter how many opportunities, no matter where the ball's placed. So that kind of energy, and then you create that next level of energy is, hey, what a great challenge. This isn't a negative, this is a great challenge. You have an opportunity to do something really special here, and your game rises.
Manti, Coach talked about how important your father was to your development, how many sacrifices your family made. For them to be able to share this with you, I know they're coming up tomorrow, to have them go through everything they went through, the award ceremonies and now national championship, you feel like this is your way of repaying them for everything they've done?
Yeah, I think, any child's greatest accomplishment is when they see the joy in their parents' eyes, when they're able to do something for them that they couldn't do before, and to repay them for the countless hours and days that they've sacrificed to make sure that you live your dream. And as Coach, said, my dad, he started off coaching Pop Warner, but he knew that, his son was going to play football. And he would go to every coaching clinic to learn, just the different techniques and, just about this game they call football, so that he could be the best mentor and best teacher for his son. And I just happened to be that lucky guy to learn from him. And now I'm learning from Coach D and, applying what I already know to what he has taught me, and has made me the player that I am. But for me to be able to go around on these circuits and see my parents and see my dad take pictures of food in New York, and videotape us driving around New York, and I'm like, Dad, we complain about the tourists in Hawaii and them driving 10 miles per hour on the highway, and they're like, what are you guys doing? It's just water, it's just coconut trees, and you're taking pictures of lasagna. It's like, that isn't it? And so that's, for me, that's the joy. I think that's what life is all about. It's not about the money. It's not about the big homes. It's about those experiences, those little experiences that you get to share with the ones you love. And I'll get to have that, last chance as a collegiate player here in South Florida with my parents and, with Coach D and my team.
Hey, I'm Susan Miller-Degnan of the Miami Herald. Manti, how have the commotion, football-related commotion and excitement of the past year helped you get through the turmoil you faced with your, grandmother and girlfriend, and how have the quiet periods been for you, giving you more time to reflect? Is that a good thing or double-edged?
I think, whenever you're in football, it takes your mind off a lot of things. And I'm just this team is very special to me, and the guys on it have always been there for me, through the good times and the bad times. I rarely have a quiet time to myself because I always have somebody calling me, asking, do you want to go to the movies? The coach is always calling me, asking, are you okay? Do you need anything? I have 3 roommates, Zeke, Carlo, and Robbie Toma, who are always yelling at each other, who's going to play Call of Duty, so, I'm rarely by myself, and that's how I like it. I'm always around, my guys, I'm always around my family.
First of all, for Bob, what does the Broyles Award mean for you that you got this year?
It's a great honor, and representing assistant coaches all across the country, I speak probably for most when I say that that's an award that we really point to identify, like we said, a job well done of service to serve the university and its students, to serve the head football coach and the vision he has for his program, to serve the other assistant coaches. I see it as a staff award, an assistant coach's staff award that was created and had an opportunity not only by the defensive coaches that I work with specifically, but the offensive coaches and the work that they've done in the transition from 2011 to 2012. So the selection committee is all coaches, all basically Hall of Fame coaches, guys that we really point towards to say, hey, someday, I'd just love to be like that guy, So it's a great honor, one that I don't take lightly at all. I've talked about it. I've talked about it with my family. I've talked about it with my wife through this grind, of years from stop to stop and place to place. So it's just a great honor as it relates to a job well done in service.
And for Manti, think back 3 years ago to the Navy game and the frustration that the defense had in that game. What's the development process been? How far has this defense come in those 3 years?
That was like the longest media spell we've ever had to not get the 3-year Navy question.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I think...
Thanks, Al. That's great.
I think the fact that, we're here in South Beach and we're about to play the national championship, speaks for itself. We played, a hard game in the Meadowlands against a real good team, and we experienced some growing pains. And I think, all of the growth of our team has to do with this man sitting beside me and the rest of our defensive coaches, and because a lot of people asks us, what's different? And to be honest with you, the players haven't changed. It's the coaches. I was here during that Meadowlands game, and I'm the same person that I am, here. But what makes us different is us understanding what the expectations, what our coaches' expectations are, and how our coaches don't just tell us to go from point A to point B. They tell us how to get from point A to point B, and whatever that is, whether it's a play, whether it's a blitz, whether it's life, they tell us, and they show us how to get from point A to point B. And, reiterating what Coach talked about, the goal line, the goal line stands, that's true wherever we go. Wherever the ball is, it doesn't matter if it's on a goal line or if it's on, their 1 yard line or our 1 yard line. We're going to play the same. And that's the mentality we have. And to be honest with you, it's not a mentality that we always used to have. And I think that growth has shown, this year, and will continue to, to get better. And that's the scary part, is this team will be a lot better down the future than it is right now.
For both of you, you talked about those awards banquets, and A.J. McCarron wasn't a part of a lot of those, and yet all he does is win and leads the country in passing efficiency. Could you just talk about how you obviously won't be overlooking him and what he brings to that Alabama offense?
You're saying A.J.? Oh, okay, I missed the name. Yeah, he's the driver. He's the coach on the field. You can see he puts him in the right spots. Their organization, led by Coach Saban, is so fun to watch from a football purist standpoint. And like Manti said, hey, we look at those guys and say, we'd love to have them as teammates. We do that. We actually, as part of our study, we'll actually say, hey, here's the tangible traits and intangible traits of this specific player. And we'll say, hey, this would be a guy that would fit perfectly in this room. Now, when you watch Alabama operate, that's rampant all over. They play football the way football should be played. They run their organization the way it should be run. It's a class outfit. It's not a false bravado. It's so deeply rooted in Coach Saban's core beliefs that permeate through the whole staff, I'm sure, and all the players. And you could see, so what's the connection with the quarterback? The quarterback conducts the game just like if Nick Saban was taking the snap himself. I mean, he doesn't put the team in bad spots. He doesn't make, poor decisions with the ball. He's working the game and managing the game and putting the offense in the appropriate plays, just like you'd think the inside linebacker or the safety would do for their defense. I mean, it's really an incredible organization to watch on offensively, led by the quarterback.
Yeah, I think the same thing, watching, AJ, watching film and watching how he conducts his offense, and just the confidence he has back there to first know what play to run, to make the checks for that play, and, having confidence in his arm. And, he's very accurate, and he's just, he like how Coach said, he's Coach Saban out there. He doesn't make silly mistakes. He's that journeyman of that offense, and he does a really good job at it.
Mike Herndon with AL.com. Manti, Alabama's known for their offensive line, running game, downhill running game. As a linebacker, now that you're here at this pinnacle of the sport, do you relish that type of matchup?
Yeah, we definitely do. That's football at its finest, and that's this is going to be an opportunity that we've been waiting for a long time. And to as a linebacker, to know that you're going to be run at. And I think that's the thing at a linebacker. Coach played linebacker as well. That's something that you look forward to, and we understand, obviously, what Alabama can do. We've seen it. Everybody's seen it, and it starts with their O-line. We've talked about the best, collective group of linemen, and it's just going to be a great challenge, and a challenge that we look forward to. And you combine that with their running backs. We've seen what they could do, and everybody's seen what they could do, and we're just real excited to get out there and play.
Manti, you talked about your father and the lasagna and everything. Talk about your shift to the culture at Notre Dame from where you came from. How long did it take you to get comfortable? What differences were unexpected, that kind of thing?
I think once I broke down those walls, that I built, when I first got there, I was like, this is a totally different place. I'm not going to really let anybody in at first, and I'm just going to fill it out. Once I broke down those walls, I was just surprised to see that, Hawaii and South Bend are very similar. The people there are very, loving, they're very caring. South Bend loves Notre Dame, and that's what I've experienced there, and the people there have been nothing but great, to me and my teammates, and Like I said, once I broke down those barriers, the similarities between the two places there are a lot of them.
This is a question for both of you guys. Alabama's obviously very comfortable. They're familiar with the BCS National Championship stage. How do you expect that to manifest itself in the game on Monday? And how do you guys create the same sense of comfortability with a game like this?
I believe that that could definitely be an advantage initially. We talk about both teams in each contest, no matter what the contest is, no matter what time of year it is, no matter what stakes are on the line, that both teams are about the same for the first few minutes of the game, and then the game kind of settles into itself. So we continue to ring that home with the players. We point towards contests and battles that we've had this year, not only individual matchup contests and battles, but overall game moments that were as big as big can be. There is no bigger for a competitor. All that other stuff is external stuff. The fact of the matter is there's going to be a play, and you're going to stand there, and I'm going to be across from you, and you're going to try to block me, and I'm going to try to whip you. I'm not thinking about media, press, the sign, who's there, who's not. It's just me and you. And that's it.
Yeah, I think, I've always been told, I understand, we have to understand ourselves, understand our opponent, and to understand the terrain. And we know who we are, obviously. We obviously know who Alabama is. And as this week goes on and the practices continue, we'll know the terrain. And for me, I've always been a believer that regardless of the situation, the field is still 120 yards long, football is still the same shape, and everybody straps on their chin strap the same way. And so we understand that this is a big game, but at the end of the day, it's still football. And I think, when we start to do things, differently than we've done all season, that's when we're going to start getting into trouble. And Coach Kelly and Coach Diaco do a tremendous job in, keeping us settled, keeping us focused, and keeping us calm, and keeping us ensuring and letting us know that, hey, do the same thing we've done for the past 12 games, and we should be fine. If we start to waver from that, that's when we're going to get in trouble.
And that, the hallmark, to add to that, Coach Manti mentioned Coach Kelly. Coach Kelly, as it relates to the culture change at Notre Dame, he infected the team with his personality, in that he is the most fearless coach I've ever been around, and he's probably one of the most fearless coaches in the country, period. So he doesn't believe that any team, any opponent, anywhere, anytime, it's not coach speak. He really believes that he can take any team that he's coaching into any venue and play any other team and whip them.
This question is for both of you guys, and you started to kind of answer it a little bit. In what ways, if any, would you say Coach Kelly has changed in the last year?
From a coaching perspective, Brian Kelly is the very best boss that I can have in the country. I've enjoyed working for him every single day at the 3 universities that I've worked for him at. As it relates to the challenges of different jobs, every different job poses a new challenge that he, in short order, figures out and assimilates, and Coach Fry used to say, scratch where it itches, and scratches where it itches. The going from Grand Valley to Central Michigan and Division 1A recruiting, he dove into that. The city is surrounded by an Indian reservation. He assimilated into that culture and used all those resources as assets for the program. Then moving from Mount Pleasant, Michigan to a major city, a spectacular city in Cincinnati, and assimilating into that culture and how to recruit that niche in Ohio. He did that with spectacular form. And then at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame's distinctions. Notre Dame's distinctions are well documented worldwide, and they fit him in his world nicely. So I would say just a normal growth that he's had at every institution he's worked at.
I think from a player's point of view, Coach, this past, off season, in the winter, took time out of his schedule to just meet with his team, not to talk about X's and O's or about talk about, just schemes or whatever. He just talked about, us as players, as individuals, and about school and how we're doing, about how we're doing socially, and just to meet with his guys, and it was an opportunity for us to get to know him, and for opportunity for him to get to know us, and that has definitely showed itself on the field, and in the bond that we have with him, and the trust that we have in him, in not only in the things he does, but how he leads this team. Every player trusts him and loves him, not only for the success that we've had as a team, but what he's done for us off the field.
Manti, a year ago at this time, a lot of people were projecting you as a first-round draft pick, and you had some options. And some of your teammates in there were talking about the lift they got when you announced you were going to return for your senior year. Can you just talk about those deliberations and your decision on why you decided to come back for another year at Notre Dame?
Yeah, everything that I've done, I've always prayed about it, and always, exercised my faith and, utilized that, and definitely, the temptation and to leave, school, and to provide a better, future for my family, and, financially, it's always tempting for, a 20-year-old boy, and so for me, that was something I definitely looked at. But after, praying about it and talking to a lot of people about it, money has never been the reason for me doing something. It's always been the experiences, and I've experienced a lot of things throughout my career at Notre Dame, and one of the most amazing experiences was, that senior walk. And I think for me, to be able to experience that, with my parents, going back to my parents again, that was the greatest feeling that any young man could ever experience. And for me to be around my coaches and to be around my teammates, people don't understand to what effect this team has had on me until you're with me every day with my coaches. My coaches, their doors aren't closed. It's always open. And Coach D knows. I always walk up and I just pop my head in the room and I say, "Hey, what's up, Coach?" And everybody celebrates as if that's the first time they see me, since I've been here at Notre Dame. And it's the same thing with Coach. And so the fact that I've had all that to experience, and the fact that in May I'm gonna graduate and I'm gonna walk across that stage and get that diploma from the University of Notre Dame is definitely something that I'm very fortunate to experience and to hopefully experience in the near future.
Bob, in front, Ivan Mazel of ESPN.com. 2 rushing touchdowns speaks for itself, but I'm curious if there's another metric, because I know you guys get all kind of stats, or if there's another way, perhaps the way they've graded out, that tells you how special these guys have been in the red zone.
That's the main piece, the points. You talked about rushing touchdowns. That specifically talks about rushing, but the main word is touchdown, in that our main objective is to keep the points down. We don't know what the other side is going to bring, so we try not to worry about it. If the team can't score, then we're going to have a great chance to win. So we're interested in keeping the points down. That's everything we do. So there are some core fundamentals that go along with keeping the points down that can't waver. So that's where the systems are built, that's where the personnel is placed, that's where when we make a cut-up of the plays that cause losing, they all have to do with point-producing moments or potential point-producing moments. So the metric that you're speaking about for us is about keeping the points down.
How unusual has this group been? You've been coaching a while. Anybody can look at 2 touchdowns and figure out they're pretty good. How unusual is this group?
It's an incredible group of young men to work with, and like Manti pointed out, it's not going to change. The group that's going to be added in February will be in fit right lockstep with the rest of the 2012/13 Irish defense, mentally, physically, every piece. So I don't want to take away and say it's business as usual how awesome a job this Irish defense has done, the players. But every single day, every play, every player, every play, every day, everything they do is graded and inspected, and feedback is given back to the player. So it's so drilled down that it's hard big picture-wise to say, and not to mention, we really haven't had an opportunity to sit back and relish in a team's success or a specific unit's success. It's just not that time frame. So I don't mean to be coy with it, but we really haven't had the opportunity, and our brains really don't work that way anyway. It's not part of our culture.
For both you guys, Mark Schlabach with ESPN.com. Can you guys talk about Danny Spahn and just his comeback from where he was in August, September, and how remarkable that's been to watch?
Dan Spahn is one of the, to me, players of the year. I'm not sure what's been documented or what hasn't, but there was a moment at the beginning of the season where he was really struggling physically. He had an episode that set him back, and I wasn't sure whether he was, forget about play football again. I wasn't sure that he was ever going to have the functional life he was going to be able to have before that moment. And to watch him battle and fight and stay positive and become the player that he has become for his teammates in 2012, he is a stalwart out there to the field. It's very hard to get a play on him in the pass game or the run game. It's really been inspirational for me to watch and be a part of. So I'm so thankful for Danny Spahn specifically in my life.
I think, Danny, even going, further back than his episode, Danny came out of high school as a quarterback. And, for a quarterback to go to outside linebacker and to be setting the edge on 300-plus pound linemen, that takes character and courage in itself. And then, how Coach said his episode that he had, we were just wondering if he'd ever be able to function regularly on a daily basis. And then for him to come out, what was it, a week and a half?
Yeah.
He came out like a week and a half later and said, I'm going to practice today. And we're like, oh, Danny, you can just chill, This is life you're talking about. This is not football. You just chill. But he's like, no, I'm going to get ready. And for him to come out there, in the meeting room, we can always count on Danny Spahn answering Coach D's hardest questions. Coach D asks such a hard question, and we're all just sitting there, and there's silence, and all you hear is, Danny just blurted out an answer as if he knew the whole time. He just wants to see who was going to answer it. That's Danny Spahn. He's a very smart player. He doesn't complain at all. He's always positive, and he's just a great teammate to have. And I don't have to tell him much, when I'm out there. He just basically does it. And he's just a great asset to our team.
Manti, you're one of those players who's been described as a coach on the field, and your preparation is legendary. So do you look at the long layoff as an opportunity in that sense? And also, can you talk a little about your longtime relationship as a best friend with Robbie Toma and evaluate Robbie's performance yesterday with the media?
Just to address the first question. I think, with all this time, it's a great opportunity for us to get better. And it's a great opportunity for our eyes to get familiar with Alabama. And the best way that we can do that is to watch film. And the days off has given us the opportunity to go in and sit down and watch tons and tons and tons of film. And Coach Diaco says, the best way to simulate the speed of the game and to simulate, the speed of the players is to watch them on tape. And that's the best thing you're going to get besides the game itself. And so the days off could, definitely be a distraction, but by the way that our coaches scheduled everything and just by the way that our players really, approached every day's tasks, it was a great experience for us to get out there and practice and to, get in the film room and to address, Robbie. Everybody talks about my story and, how I came from Hawaii and, how, I was highly recruited and, chose Notre Dame, and I finished off my career at Notre Dame. Well, I'm finishing off it the way it's unraveling now. But I think a greater story is Robbie Toma's story. A guy who's about 5'9", $180 in a good day, and he is starting on a Division I football team. I don't know if there's anything else you could say about that.
Yeah, he's one of the toughest players on the team.
Yeah, he's somebody that will always go and perform, and he will work hard, and he won't complain, and he always comes up to us and to Coach D, especially, hey, Coach, man, if you need a DB, put me in there, like Rob. You don't have the guts, but everybody knows that number 9, Robbie Toma, has what it takes. But I didn't see his interview. I just heard a lot about it. And he's my roommate, and I just shook my head. I was like, man, you're in trouble. But, the growth that he's taken and the growth that he's done since he's been here has been tremendous.
Okay, we've got 2 final questions. One announcement. There's apparently a tremendous interest in a lot of people going to both practice sites today. So with that in mind, the Orange Bowl staff has put together a bus shuttle to go to each respective practice. They'll be leaving from 12:15 right outside the lobby here, so you don't need to worry about car service like we talked about earlier in the day. So if you have videographers and photographers who want to go, be down here in the lobby by 12:15, and the shuttle will take them directly. Got one question here and then one question there, and then we've got to complete the day.
Manti, Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press. Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it almost like there are 2 Brian Kellys in the sense of the one that we see on Saturdays on the sideline, that incredibly intense, incredibly emotional, red-faced, typical sideline boss character, if you will, and then the one you guys speak of off the field, the one who takes the time, like you said a few minutes ago, and talks to you about anything but football? How are the 2 the same and different?
I think, he's all the same. He's not different. I think that guy that you see on the sideline, and, a lot of people, from the outside looking in, he looks like he's always angry, but he's not. And it's because he cares and because he loves his players that he gets on us. And if he didn't love us, he'd just stand there and as we're running off the field after throwing an interception or letting the offense score a touchdown, if, he's the type of coach that just lets us run off the field, he doesn't care. But the fact that he cares about you, whether you're on the football field or off, he's the same way, when we make a mistake off the football field, when we make a mistake, out in public, he'll get on us. But because he's one of the most caring individuals out there, for a player. You can always trust Coach to not only be, the most loving, but to be, the guy who's the first one there to say, you're doing something wrong. And so, the guy that you see on a football field and the guy that, we know is the same guy. It's his way of showing how much he cares.
AP Stedham on Bama Magazine and BamaMag.com. What is unique about Alabama's offensive line, just for the coach and Manti?
Like Manti pointed out already, they're the finest collection, tackle-to-tackle, group of players that we've faced so far. We've faced some very talented offensive lines. We've faced some very talented players. You may be able to pinpoint a player here or there from other teams to say, oh, that player's got whatever, a higher profile. But tackle-to-tackle, it's the best group collection of offensive linemen we've played against. They're uniquely big and fast. They have quick twitch. You know, they're not on the ground. They have excellent contact balance and ballast. They play very hard. That's another unique trait. It's not a group of, you know, happy-go-lucky group of offensive linemen. This is an angry, aggressive, intense group of players that play hard and finish blocks. So those are some unique traits as it relates to describing their offensive line, which again we believe the backs. What we talk about, the backs are really the battery of that team. You know, the battery of that offense, which is the battery of that team. But they're facilitated by the offensive line. The offensive line is really the marquee position group of that, you know, pretty marquee offense.
Yeah, and you know, just echoing what Coach said, you know, they're very big, and you know, they can move, and you know, they're very physical, and you know, we understand that. And just watching them on film, those guys, you know, they're not out there to just, you know, shield you. You know, they're out there to drive you back and to try and make the biggest hole they can make. And yeah, it's going to be a great opportunity for our defense to go against such a great O-line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you, Manti.